I'm Leif Johnson, Structural Engineering Director with StructureCraft in Seattle.
Excellent. And I know that StructureCraft has been instrumental to the design and the engineering of complex wood construction around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just explain what your firm does to advance structural innovations and sustainability in mass timber?
Sure, yeah. One of StructureCraft's core values and core beliefs and goal is to never stop pioneering. And we're structural engineers and builders. And so we're uniquely set up to achieve that goal because we have a feedback loop between our structural engineers and our site crew. So our actual guys on site will say, hey, don't do this connection, it doesn't work, or let's tweak this. And we also have a shop where we're able to test connections. So we're really getting into the weeds and having the construction lessons learned inform what we do on the structural design. And so I think that actually is helping us really push innovation in the timber world. So.
Excellent. I know you do great projects around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting in front of one of them.
Yeah.
A beautiful model that you put together for us of Tianfu Agricultural Expo in China. I wonder if you could just say a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this project is 800,000 square feet. So it's the largest timber project in Asia, one of the largest in the world. And it was unique because it was very quick. It's about 2 years from the very start of concepts through completion, 7.5 months for construction during COVID. So actually one of the things we did, because we have a limited site crew, was put together an animated, sort of like IKEA instructions. So there's no language barrier to help. So when we ship materials to site, they can be put together. So the screws are flying in, right? And this piece connects to this piece. Because one of the challenges is designing this so that the members could be spliced in such a way that they can be shipped from Austria or actually transported by rail to China. So optimizing all the pieces that go into the shipping container. There's a wild project, one that doesn't come around very often, right? But
clearly it's a monumental scale.
Yeah.
Give us a feel for what we're talking about here. How tall is it to the top of the highest arch?
So yeah, great. So it spans up to 450 feet and 150 feet tall. And actually this is a hybrid structure. So to achieve these types of spans, we needed to rely on both timber and steel to get that kind of span to happen. And inside these vaults, there's 5 of them total. There's different programs, and then there's a cable LED screen on the front of these that can light up the night. It's quite remarkable, actually. And then the covering between the ribs is a colored ETFE panel. So, yeah.
Great. What makes mass timber unique, would you say, when it comes to the requirements of structural design, architecture?
Well, so a lot of my career, I've worked with steel and concrete. And one of the things that's apparent when you're working with timber is it's a natural material that changes when exposed to the elements, right? If you have a steel beam and you're erecting it, it's not going to change size. But if a timber glulam beam or a panel that's wet can actually swell, right? And the connections in timber structures are usually exposed. There's a lot of times we want to celebrate the timber. There's a biophilia aspect to these designs, right? So you have to design these connections so that they can accommodate the tolerances, especially these chances of things swelling in the field and shrinking. And if you mess up, you can't just go in there and weld it off like you could with a steel connection, right? So it's less forgiving. So it's very much the devil in the details, and pushed earlier into design than you would typically do for steel and concrete. So when we design our timber structures, we're thinking in a very final condition of some of our construction documents type thinking early in schematic design, because a lot of times how we want to build it and how we want to detail it can inform those early schematic decisions.
You've already alluded to this, but you were saying how steel used strategically in that structure in Tianfu allows you to optimize the natural capabilities of mass timber.
Yeah.
And the bigger conversation is, of course, hybrid structures.
Yeah.
Timber plays really nice with steel and concrete.
Yep.
And it's important that we find ways, I think, to bring mass timber into those existing supply chains and into typical construction. As we go taller and taller with timber buildings, what do these hybrid structural systems allow us to do?
Yeah, so I always believe, and our company believes, that we should be using materials to their advantages, right? Obviously, we're timber experts, but steel and concrete in certain conditions work really well. And especially as we go taller, the most economical design, and probably the least carbon design, is one that's using all these different materials together. Like the example I like to point out is, if say you have a 40-story tower with a 30 by 30 grid, and you just said, I'm going to design it out of timber. You have gigantic columns at the bottom of the building. You have a lot of, let's say, CLT shear walls. Your floor plate maybe has really thick panels to span that. If you design a building where you're using steel columns at the base, you're using steel brace frames or concrete shear walls, maybe a composite floor system, if you actually look at the cost and embodied carbon, you probably find the hybrid one will win. And I think that's something that is actually beautiful, because it's pulling all these different industries, right? You can sometimes see a lot of competition and fighting between the timber, steel, and concrete worlds. And I think as we go taller and taller, there'll be more collaboration, right? Because these solutions will require it.
Thank you for coming in today,
Thanks
sharing
for
your
having
thoughts on mass timber.
Yeah, I appreciate
and
it.
for being a partner in our show.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.